Hi, my name's Natasha and this is my video. I wanted to talk about gender descriptions or gender labels because it's been something that's obviously more prominent in the last 10, 15, 20 years. But growing up, we didn't really have the kind of descriptions that we have now, which may have been good or bad depending on your outlook. Now, the first thing I want to say is that labels, they're a very divisive topic. I think it was Kierkegaard who said, when you label me, you negate me. In other words, you put limits on me. So I've always found I've tried to resist labels, and I've been kind of like a non-conformist in that regard, and that I've not really felt comfortable with labels. But going back to when I was younger, there was the only two terms that I knew about people who wanted to dress as using the clothing from the opposite sex, from the gender that they were assigned at birth, was transsexual and transvestite. Now, the descriptions I read about transsexual, which I understand is not a politically correct term now or a widely used term, I don't really hear it that often, but it was the words that were around when I was growing up, and I didn't really identify with the word at all because it was a woman trapped inside a man's body. And it was one extreme, and then a transvestite was just people who wanted to do it part-time. Now, neither of them really fit when I look back on how I felt, but due to the kind of very binary way of the world and how it certainly was back then, I gravitated more to transvestite because I certainly didn't feel comfortable going to transsexual. Now we're in a situation where we're getting all these different terms that are coming to fruition. And when I look back over my life, they may have helped me get a grounding. I mean, I think I've probably occupied at any given point many of the names. So, for instance, the umbrella term that we all use now, which is kind of more friendly when talking to people outside of the community, is transgender. Now, transgender essentially is you're wanting to appear or take on the gender of that which is opposite from the gender you were assigned at birth. So I was born male, so I want to dress as a female. Now, that's what I say to people most of the time because it's the most appropriate one now, and it's the least complicated one to explain, and even that's difficult for some cis people to understand. But growing up, there was periods in my life, particularly when I was in the closet, where some of the other terms may have been useful. So for me, a term that I came across was gender fluid. Now, gender fluid, when in my younger years, when I was in the closet, I used to present as male, and then at the weekends I'd be presenting as female, and there was nothing in between. It was just very much, I was all or nothing that one, and then I was trying to pass as that one in during the day. So gender fluid might have been something at a given point in my life I would have occupied. Other periods, probably most of my life, I would say non-binary. And now non-binary, which should be sort of coming across the bottom here, non-binary is probably one that's a little bit more friendly, in the same way as for sexuality, bisexual seems to cover a larger proportion of people because it's not so limiting. Non-binary seems probably would have been something that I would have identified as most of my life had I known the term. Genderqueer is another one. It just means that you're not really sticking to the conformity of, if you're male, you're not dressing as a male, you're fluctuating. And androgyny. Now, androgyny is something else that I've kind of felt more recently, because it's got to a point now where in my earlier days, before I was transitioning, before I was on hormones, when I didn't wear makeup, people just thought I was male. Now when I don't wear makeup, there's kind of like some people call me ma'am, some people call me sir. There's kind of like an ambiguity there, which I would describe as androgyny. And so I've inadvertently, when I don't wear makeup, people would perceive me, because that's the other thing we've got to realise is how we identify ourselves and how other people see us without even conversating with us may be two different things. And so one of the things I've been mindful of late when I don't wear makeup, because it's not something that I always feel I need to do or want to do. I love wearing makeup, but sometimes I don't feel I need to. I've not got that desire to be feminine 100%. Well, I'm feminine, but not to have to put makeup on and look my best all the time. As women don't generally put makeup on all the time. I know some do, but But how some people perceive me and some of the feedback I've got, some people are saying, "Excuse me, miss." And I guess it's not, we can't really be harsh on them because we're giving them cues all the time. So when I'm dressed like this, I'm giving them a cue that this is very feminine. So it's very easy for them to get the cues. But when I'm dressed as male now, I tend to wear very sort of not quite masculine and not. It's kind of more sort of in the middle, more androgynous clothing like leggings and stuff that could be one or the other. And so I'm giving them mixed signals. So I could see why sometimes people might see one thing and some people might see another. But I think when I have my hair down, that tends to push the boat out to them thinking more feminine. But some of these labels probably might have helped me when I was younger. But like I said, I think one of the most important things that I would say about all these labels is yes, use them to get through your difficult times or wanting to find your place. But understand that as our level of awareness increases, maybe we'll feel more comfortable with another term. And we shouldn't limit ourselves to a term because one of the things I found when I first came out as transgender, there was all this sudden pressure. A transgender must do X, Y, and Z, and I think I should choose what I do, and I shouldn't have those things forced upon me. And that comes from other people, your peers, and also the NHS. You're on hormones. You definitely want SRS. No, not all of us want SRS. That's not a path that's a desire for me at all. And I think that's not that uncommon a thought. And so, as we're getting a better understanding of the differences of gender expression, I think these terms. I know that some people, because someone I was working with the other day made a comment that said that he thought there's just two genders, that's all there is. And I get that kind of stubborn way of looking at it. But for me personally, if it's something that helps people feel comfortable in them, and it's think of it as like a crutch to get them through something, then I don't see any negative in it. I think maybe we don't expect everyone to know them all because I don't know them all and I'm living within the community. But if you feel comfortable expressing yourself as non-binary, do that. I think people think it's complicated, but I think in years to come, these things will be very standard. I think you'll come across more non-binary people. It won't be just male, female, and transgender. There'll be other denominations that are more prominent, even in sort of wider society. Um, but that's all I wanted to say for now, because at the moment, although just to finish up what I identify as, I say to people transgender, but non-binary feels good for me as well, because although I think of transgender as being the umbrella term, non-binary, I don't feel like I'm not a woman trapped inside a man's body, and I don't feel like a man. I feel like something on the spectrum that's far more feminine than masculine. So hence why I like to present every day as female. But I'm not of a mindset that I'm a woman. I'm a trans woman for sure, and I'm transgender. But I'm me, and that's good enough for me for now. But you never know, things may change. Like I said, things are fluid in life as you learn more about yourself. That's all I wanted to say for now. I've gone on a bit longer than I thought I would, but thanks for now, and I'll speak in my next video. Cheers, bye bye.